Good morning. Last week's epic story was about God, our provider. And we heard how God provided for the Israelites while they were wandering in the wilderness. He provided guidance and food and water in miraculous ways. And they needed all of those things and more. Do you remember the photo that Jeff showed us last week of Mount Sinai? It was up there. And it was in the general vicinity where they were wandering. And it looks utterly desolate. I'm not actually surprised that they said, if only you had left us in Egypt instead of bringing us out here into the wilderness to die. There were so many ways they could have died in the wilderness. Starvation, dehydration, heat stroke, scorpion bites, snake bites, or just shriveling up in the dry, barren, scorching desert. Okay, true confession, I would have complained too. Pretty sure I would have. I don't like being too hot or too cold or not having fresh drinking water or being hungry, and I don't like scorpions in my shoes. Here's the thing. God provided all those things for them: food, water, shoes that didn't wear out, and he guided them through the desert to safe places where they could camp. It was definitely uncomfortable for them in the wilderness, but in the middle of that discomfort, God provided what they need. There are many fascinating accounts of Moses talking directly to God face to face and clearly expressing the people's needs. And God answered, and he provided. So we looked at last week at the difference between complaining and presenting our needs to God. God is not against us presenting our needs. In fact, he encourages us to do that. What he dislikes is when we forget how he has provided and we lose our trust in him and we complain and we grow bitter and jaded. That kind of path takes our hearts further and further away from God, whereas presenting our needs to him brings us closer to him. And this is why God encouraged them and us to remember what he has done, to remember the ways that he has provided, because remembering what God has done grows our faith and helps us to trust him. He instructed the Israelites to build altars where significant things happened and to have festivals to celebrate things like their escape from Egypt in order to remember how he was the one who delivered them and that he was their God and they were his people. In Philippians 4:6, Paul said, "Don't be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God." I love these words. It's all right there. We're going to have to live by faith, presenting our needs to God for the rest of our lives. That's just how life is on earth. And God has provided the way for us to do that. He invites us to present our requests to him, just like Moses went right into God's presence day after day and presented the needs of the Israelites to God. We can go into his presence and present our needs to him. He welcomes this. He welcomes us. And then these beautiful words, with thanksgiving. And this is also a wonderful provision for us, this reminder to give thanks. By giving thanks, it helps us notice what God has done for us, the ways that he has answered our prayers. We notice and our faith grows. And it builds our relationship with God, our Heavenly Father, and it builds our trust and our confidence in him and our intimacy. Psalm 62 says this, "Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart to him, for God is our refuge. You, O God, are strong, and you, O God, are loving."